Welcome to the I Am the Worst Parent Ever podcast with Nicole Merritt and Dr. Robert Zeitlin.
Hey, Nicole, how are you?
I'm good. How's your morning going?
My morning is good. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. I'm here with you. Yesterday's problems are forgotten. It's a whole new day. How was your day yesterday?
You must be feeling mindful.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was going to explain to you why you need to meditate.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I know the idea of adding mindfulness to anything else on your already overflowing plate seems like insanity. But here's the thing. Here's my pitch. I tried mindfulness and meditated on and off for about 5 years. I kept starting and then forgetting and having to restart. Every time I felt like I was the problem. I didn't have willpower. Why can everyone else do this but me? I knew the answer on the inside. I was just bad at it. I am the worst meditator ever. But I haven't been bad at too many things in my life, which is fortunate. I'm pretty lucky. And I'm also pretty persistent, which helps. But I could not find a way to keep meditating every day. It kind of sucked. I'm not going to lie. It was hard to keep trying and failing. Every time I lost more confidence. But here's what I figured out eventually. I'm not bad at it. I was just doing it wrong. So I found out that there are different ways to meditate, and I finally found the way that works for me. For some people, it's an app. For some people, it's stepping outside to look at the sky in the morning and take a minute to breathe. For some people, they use YouTube videos for like guided meditation. But I finally found a way that works for me. It was through a studio in New York called Ziva, which I'm a big fan of, and I've been a game changer for me. But my lesson really is not to find the one that worked for me, but to find the one that works for you. And the lesson really is to just start. Okay. So if it doesn't work, try something else. The best starting place is probably an app. There are a couple apps I can recommend, like Headspace and Insight Timer. Like Headspace is great to learn about meditation, mindfulness, and Insight Timer is great if you want like a community and people to help keep you accountable, and also gives you a ton of options. So that's my pitch. That's why you need to meditate.
Okay, so do you want my initial honest response and take on my...
Always.
Okay. So the one thing I like that you said about mindfulness is that it doesn't have to be one thing. It's not me going to hot yoga. It's not me doing morning affirmations. You said that if it could be going outside and looking at the sun or taking a walk. That I love. I guess my initial incorrect thinking about mindfulness is that it's this, just like woosa, rub your ears, talk to yourself in the mirror, tell yourself how great you are, all your deep breathing.
Right.
And that's the stuff that I know many people swear by, and I can't knock it because I haven't given it like a full give go, but I do find it a little, kind of like hoo-ha. I don't know how you would describe it. So I like that you took that piece out of it. It was whatever works for you. Painting, running, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, I think we've both learned that lesson fishing around trying to find the thing for us, whether it's writing or how to write. Like, you just start. Like, that's the hard part. That's the hump that you have to get over. So that's why I do whatever. Figure out if there's some like benefit to this before you invest all this energy. Like, it's just, I started out with taking this huge course and paying all this money and like found out it really wasn't for me, and it was really frustrating. But I think there are easier on-ramps and easier ways to start out. And that's why, yeah, take a minute, go outside, make it a morning routine to sort of take a breath and stare at the sky and think about the universe,
Right. No, I hear that. And I mean, like, my husband, he's a runner, so he likes to run, and he doesn't have as much time to do it now, but he like every Sunday morning, that's his thing. He goes for a run. For me, I would have never, I guess, like you said, the writing, I guess I never thought about that as that being my mindfulness, but it is. How I told you in one of our other talks that, like, I can put up with the dog hair on the floor. I can put up with the mess in the kitchen, but I can't put up with not getting my thoughts on paper.
Right.
I can't. I gotta, spew it out when I need to.
Right.
So now that you've put it like that, I guess I do practice mindfulness in my own little way. The thing I guess I struggle with is I do feel like I need more balance in my life. I don't know, balance, the holy grail of balance, but like I don't read any books for enjoyment anymore. I'm always reading, a parenting book or improve your marriage book or whatever, some sort of self-improvement book. Cause I'm like, how can I waste my time reading a story about people that aren't real, But I feel like doing something like that right before I go to bed or whatever would help me kind of have a little peace.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would look at you and say, how do you make time to do creative stuff? Like I can barely keep the bills paid and move forward. But for you, whether you call it your mindfulness, I'm not sure it's mindfulness, but for you, it's a necessary thing now. It's something that needs to be expressed. And I think the comparison with mindfulness is this. Creativity and doing creative things are things that you and I connect on. It's things that we have to do. We would actually feel really crappy if we couldn't do that most days. Meditation has become that for me because it's a value added thing. If it's not something that's benefiting your life, it's really hard to keep it up. Trust me, for 5 years, I learned that lesson. It was really hard to keep up something that didn't feel like it was benefiting me. But at the point where it was benefiting me, it was a no-brainer to keep up. Like I needed to do it. It's like drinking water, or sleeping. It just became something that if it took 2% of my day and it added value the other 98% of the day, why wouldn't I do that?
But do you feel like people are wired to be a meditator? Like anytime I've tried to close my eyes and picture myself on a beach or whatever, I can't do that. I can't, school prayer, I can't close my eyes. I'm still praying. I still believe in God, but I'm that person, heads up, 7 up, I peek up, I can't do that. Do you think people are just wired differently, or it's just something I decondition myself to do?
Honestly, before those 5 years, before I hit meditation, and this is a longer story I won't bore everyone with, but my wife really dragged me to this. I was really resistant because I'd spent my whole life not sitting with my thoughts. The idea of sitting there and having my thoughts pick at me and bring my self-esteem down didn't seem like a good idea at all. So the idea of sitting and meditating, for me, a long time, I was very allergic to it. And I just really did not see the appeal. It didn't make any sense to me. Do I think you're innately probably a bad meditator? No, I don't. I think it's a matter of getting over the hump of actually figuring out what works for you to sit and to replenish and not just relax, because we can all turn off and we can, if you're really looking to relax, you can almost, you can guarantee much more relaxation with a glass of wine or, a TV show or it's just that's a short-term relax, but it doesn't end up actually de-stressing you the way meditation can. And that's the sales pitch.
Right. And I guess, maybe right now is not a good environment or situation, whatever you want to call it, for me to become a meditator with the challenges of I have 3 kids under the age of 6 and all these things I'm kind of dealing with. Then I don't really have, I don't know. I really feel like I don't have the time to do that. But when my kids are older or grown like yours, and I have a little bit more freedom, they're in school longer, we're not running to activities, there's less laundry to do because they're doing it themselves, then maybe at that time, my mind and body will be more open and receptive to it.
No, that struggle is real. Actually, I just had dinner with a friend on Sunday who is in almost exactly your situation, 6, 4, and 2, is where she is. I know that's a little older. And they climb all over her. They're like cats, she just can't get up early enough to not have one of them come and want to climb on her, peel her eyes open. Mommy, you're still in there. Just, it's brutal. And I get that. I get that in a way that I never had to live it, I wasn't staying at home with the kids, even when they were little. And you're right, my kids are grown. I have a lot more space and time to do this. So I might come off as sort of like holier than thou, that I somehow have like all the time in the world to luxuriate and meditate and do all this stuff. But actually, it's hard to find the time no matter what, but especially hard with little kids. I get that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to always sound like I'm complaining about the stress or how challenging it is, because I feel like, me personally, my nature, I kind of like thrive on stress and thrive on pressure. But I think I've said this to you before, like, I piss everybody else off in the process. Like, we end up getting where we need to be on time. We end up getting done what we need to get done. But we're all grumpy, for the whole half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it takes to get there. And then we all laugh and giggle, so is it worth all of that? But, I am kind of getting where I need to get.
Yeah. I think some moms would tell you that you're doing it right if you're pissing everyone off. It's like, are you getting it done? I mean, I think it's an impossible mission. And the fact that you're getting it done most days is doing the impossible. Like, how are you doing that? How are you blogging and writing? How are you sitting here and podcasting with me with 3 kids under 6? How are you doing that?
By the seat of my pants. Question for you. So does your wife meditate too? Are you both like meditators?
I'm a little more dedicated to it, but she does meditate. Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to say, because if we have anybody that's listening where maybe they're super into mindfulness and meditation and staying balanced, and either their spouse is too busy, or tells themselves they're too busy to keep up with it, like, how do you balance that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
If they are already a meditator and their spouse is too busy?
Yes, or even just they found their own way to have mindfulness. Yep.
Gotcha. How do they sell it? I think selling it is really tough. I think, just like this conversation with you, I think, first of all, am I selling you?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're selling me to try it later on down the road when I have more time.
Gotcha. I think it's a tough sell. I think, I bugged the crap out of my wife at first with it, and I had to eventually just stop. Although she's the one that took me, pushed me to take the class at first. She's like, you have to do this. This is going to be a huge benefit for you. And it was. Learning about mindfulness just in general was a change, or, a paradigm shift for me, big change. But eventually, when I came around to like finding a way to do this on the regular, like I really bugged the crap out of her for a while, and I had to stop. Eventually she came around to saying, I really need to figure out how to do this, because I can see that it's helping you, and I can see that it's reducing stress for you, and I need to reduce stress. So like, let me figure out how to do this. And so now she knows how to do it. She has the whole sort of game plan for this kind of meditation that I do, that we do. But she's still trying to figure out how to fit it in and schedule it, because she owns her own business. And how do you schedule time? That just, like little kids, it sucks up all your time. So I think it's, in answer to your question, I think it's a tough sell. I think you have to sort of sell it by doing it and just showing that it's helping, and not wave it in front of people or like hit them on the head with it, because I think that's not going to get you anywhere. No one really does anything because of that. Like, there are a million times that I've read a book and I'm like, you have to read this, or she's seen a movie, she's like, you have to watch this. It's like, it's a non-starter. It's like automatically it goes to the back of the list. Like, I'm not going to, my wife said I'd have to do that. I'm not going to do that. So I think you have to be careful with it. I think if someone's really curious, then you can answer the question. But if they're not really curious, I wouldn't push it.
Okay. Can I ask you what, like, so, and maybe it's different. When you took your first class on mindfulness, like, how did they define that? And, or how do you define it now? Like, if somebody says mindfulness and I'm like, okay, like that's so much stuff. Like,
yeah.
How do you define mindfulness?
Yeah. So mindfulness, the way they defined it in the course and the way it's sort of like broadly taught, is the ability to focus your attention without judgment. it's sort of the muscle of growing the ability to pay attention to something on purpose, but also not judge yourself for falling out of focus, because it's what our brain does naturally. So it's basically the practice of figuring out how to sort of be still and watch the thoughts go by and just recognize what you're doing, but kind of build that sort of mental muscle, that focusing muscle, by meditating, which seems kind of like it would seem like you could practice focusing at work or with your kids or doing, but meditating is one of those like on your own practice ways of doing it. Now I say all that, that's the answer to your question, but all that didn't work for me, and it doesn't work for some people. For some people it's great, but that's the answer. That's what mindfulness, that's what I mean when I say mindfulness.
So is mindfulness more like, okay, because I guess part of my confusion is mindfulness me being present? Okay, it's me and my son, and we're sitting outside looking at lizards, and I'm not checking my phone. I'm not thinking about what I should be doing. I'm not thinking about the laundry, the email. I'm fully present with him and this lizard. Is that mindfulness? Or is mindfulness me sitting with myself for whatever 20 minutes I can find, maybe in the shower, wherever it is, and totally, I don't know, just being present with me and nothing else?
I think they're both, but I think the first is a better example. I think the second is sort of a practice of how you get there, but like applying it in real life, like your story you wrote about your son and your lizard and being outside and being annoyed, but then finally being with him, like that being present, that being mindful is, I think, the point of it, especially for parents, especially for us, especially for creative people. Like I have a new sticker on my water bottle says, I'm a monotasker. Who monotasks nowadays? And like, I've started to figure out when to put my phone aside, and actually get work done. Like, that's really hard to do nowadays. And that's all the obstacles all around us to being mindful.
Okay. And see, I was about to ask you, because we started talking about my son, so then I was going to be like, what are ways that children can practice mindfulness? But then it literally just hit me as I was thinking about that. I feel like my children are already mindful. They're already like completely present without any like distractions.
Yeah, I'm going to say this about kids. Not only are they mindful, but this idea, someone asked once, how do we breed a growth mindset in our kids? And it's like, you don't need to like instill curiosity and creativity. You don't need to get them to be more mindful. You don't need to get them into a growth mindset. You need to get out of the way, because those things happen naturally, right?
Exactly. Like, don't stifle it. It's already there. Like, stop trying to create, like, it's there. Just get out of the way.
Exactly. I think it's one of the hardest things for parents, and definitely, in schools, like I think schools are starting to figure out like how to get out of the way and just have kids like exercise that innovative mind, that mindful presence, that focusing ability. It's amazing when you see them like lost in flow on a task. It's incredible. It makes me jealous, because we now have so many other things going on in our mind. It's hard to get lost in something and actually monotask.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess I feel like it's important to, like, there's obvious signs of, stress, that are parents. Somebody can, look at me in walk-up line and visibly see that I'm stressed if I'm, red in the face and I'm yelling at my kids. But picking up on our own, I guess, and others, maybe in our family, like less obvious signs of stress, is probably like super important to that as well.
Yeah. So there's this whole other subject. We won't make this all academic, but this idea of emotional intelligence, which is basically what you're talking about, and the tenet of that, the core of that, at the introduction of the book on that, they stated something called Aristotle's challenge. And Aristotle's challenge was, how can I be angry at the right person to the right degree at the right time in the right moment? And it's like, why is that so hard?
Yeah. And I think something I wrote about at one point too is that, at least in maybe the parent culture that is today, we either turn to coffee or alcohol, depending on the time of day, to handle our stress or to help us be more mindful, because we think that that's the route to go. And is that, contributing or is it hurting? You've got people on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So here's my last pitch. I think we caffeinate ourselves to get through the day, and then we have a glass of wine to chill out at the end of the day and fall asleep. And a lot of us have sleep problems, honestly. And I think it's like an athlete. Like that's a way to get through the season. Like if you're going to figure out how to stretch and tape up and then, do whatever, ice baths at the end of a game. And that's how you get through a season, but that's not how you get through life. Like there's an off season where those athletes figure out how to repair things and figure out how to, get back to the gym and sort of get ready. But as parents, we don't have any break in that action. We caffeinate and then have a glass of wine at the end of the day, every day on a cycle. And so my last pitch for meditation or mindfulness or any version of this, and I think meditation and mindfulness are a little different. We can get into that another time. But my last pitch for this is we need some way to chip away at the stress, not actually just to wake up and put ourselves to sleep with basically medication of some kind. There has to be a better way. And meditation is one way that I've found that actually chips away at the stress without just anesthetizing it or sort of caffeinating me.
Right. I mean, and then there's people that swear by adult coloring books or, using essential oils or reading a book, whatever it is. And we've said it's whatever works for you, not just what works for you, but what works for you right now, which might change tomorrow and it might change in a week. And it's definitely going to change as the years go by. So just kind of opening yourself up to that and trying new things. And I think that's the one thing about like you asked if I was sold on your pitch and I said yes and no. And I think that's the truth is I'm not closing myself off to it, but I know for me right now, the meditation route is not the way to go, but that I have to find a way to keep myself happy. We've said that before. If you're a parent, you can't be walking around with the mean face grumbling all the time. You've got to find a way to exemplify happiness and joy for your children.
So we'll have a check-in on this in the future. What you've tried, whether it's adult coloring books or essential oils or taking a morning sort of look at the sky moment, or we've also talked about different ways to get laughing or be silly. So yeah. We'll check in on this.
Okay, that sounds great. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the I Am the Worst Parent Ever podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss an episode.